The first question here is, am I still a Christian even though I struggle with anxiety? Being a believer in Jesus, being a follower of Jesus, doesn't exempt us from being human. Jesus died for us, yes, but when he died for us, let's say you pray that sinner's prayer, when you stopped the prayer, you're still the person in human flesh. You did not turn into a ghost. You still have that nature. So yeah, you're still human. Because you're a believer, it doesn't exempt you from being human. So yes, struggling with anxiety is part of life and it does not disqualify you. It just reflects that you're human. So the fallen nature, we have a fallen nature, and it is susceptible to sicknesses, and it is also susceptible to Satan's schemes. A lot of people who are anxious and people who deal with fear, a lot of times it's just the lies of the enemy. And why are we kind of open to his lies? It's because of the sin nature. So Satan has access and he's like, okay, trying to talk and make sure that daily he just makes us have thoughts that are distorted, that are not true. And that's why God is always telling us to renew our minds, because he knows that the enemy is prowling around looking for whom to devour. You don't want to be his snack, right? The Lord will not even allow you to be the enemy's snack. But just know that you're human in this human body, all right? If you read Romans 7, verse 15 through 25, Paul was just struggling with his humanity. Towards the end of Romans 7, he talked about, the things that he doesn't want to do, but he finds himself doing. So he's like, the things I don't want to do are the things I do. The things that I want to do, I don't do. So many of us, we might have a head knowledge of, God is great, he's big, he can do everything for me, but we still find ourselves continually, doubting, and we find ourselves struggling. Will God do this? So anxiety itself, that's the next question. Is anxiety a sin? So now at least we've said that because you're a Christian, if you get anxious, it doesn't mean that you are not a Christian. Am I still a Christian even if I struggle with anxiety? We said, yes, you're still a Christian. So I know I'm a Christian, but if I have it, have I sinned? Is this something that I have to say, oh, Jesus, forgive me. If I keep doing this, am I going to hell? Even though I know that I'm a Christian, but is it a sin? All those things that the Bible says don't do, is it a sin? So anxiety itself is not a sin, but it is a signal. Like I said, it's a response. At the beginning, I said anxiety is a response. It's a response to show that we are in distress, that something is causing distress within us. So if something is a signal, if something is a response, it's actually supposed to help you to look deep and say what is happening. So anxiety in itself is not a sin. So when you get anxious, it doesn't mean that you have sinned yet. It's just like temptation. Temptation in itself is something coming your way, but you better be aware, like, okay, this something is trying to lead me in one direction and I don't have to follow that direction. It is a response to distress in our lives, and we get to decide, do I want to follow that path or not? So Jesus experienced deep distress. Remember when Jesus was going to the cross, before that he was Garden of Gethsemane praying. And the Bible talks about he was groaning. He was troubled within him. He didn't want to experience what was ahead, but he had to pray through it. It's like, not my will, but yours be done. So there are times when we have to pray through stuff. We have to pray through stuff. And Jesus, he's a perfect example. So have you ever felt guilty for feeling anxious? I know I have. it will be good to just reflect on, when did it become a sin? Was it just because that anxious feeling came, or because I allowed myself to now develop more thoughts? The thought came and said, hey, if this thing happens, or this thing will happen, then do we stay in that, follow that thought pattern and just keep expanding the fear and the anxiety, and even start making decisions like we believe in that thing and just go down the rabbit hole? Is that what we're doing? So have you ever felt guilty for feeling anxious? The bad thing is that a lot of times Satan will bring the anxious thoughts, and then he's going to be the one to accuse you of the anxious thoughts. He'll be the one to say, hey, see your life. Why did you do this? Why did you doubt God? Oh, you are just such a doubter. The Satan that brought the evil thought, he will still be the one to accuse you. The next question, how can I manage anxiety and still walk in faith? When we have faith, it doesn't mean that we don't feel afraid. Some people are like, it's one or the other. It's not possible for you to fear and still have faith. Well, they can coexist. There are many emotions that coexist, and faith and fear is just one. Some of the emotions that coexist is sadness and joy. Like, how can someone be sad and at the same time be joyful? It can happen. You might feel trapped, like I can't move forward. At the same time, you are moving forward. So many times you see people doing bold things, but within them they might be trembling, but they're doing bold things. Something is making them feel like you can make it. At the same time, they're hearing, I don't think I can do it. That in itself is a work of art. The way that the Lord has made each one of us carefully, beautifully, we can experience different emotions at the same time. Okay, so faith and fear can coexist. And because you are fearful does not mean that faith cannot thrive in that. You just need to build up yourself. All right. And the practical tips to feed your faith will be to pray. You want to read scriptures, you want community, and you want therapy. Therapy is also good. And you want healthy boundaries. So healthy boundaries could be, you have people in your life that keeps telling you things that drain faith. There are some people, all they see is the bad thing that can happen. They say, hey, what if this thing happens to us? Some people, it's like every time they are always coming with the worst situation. So sometimes you have to create boundaries. Like, what are you feeding? Who is talking to you about situations? So be careful what you're feeding yourself. But therapy too is important. Sometimes our minds are stuck on realities. Your mind is just stuck that this cannot get better. It's only going to get worse. And when your mind is stuck like that, you need to talk it through with people. And counselors, therapists, they have been trained to help people process. Sometimes the reason why people are stuck in just thinking anxious thoughts is because of what they've gone through before, and they just need someone to help them to think differently. All right. Sometimes it's, the pastors, sometimes it's good friends, and they just help you. So you just need resources. So the good thing though about anxiety is that it is a call to deeper dependence. It's calling you to depend on the Lord. Why don't you see it as an invitation instead of seeing it as, oh, this is here and it is evil? Why don't you see that this is actually a meeting God moment? Instead of when Satan brings that evil thought, instead of you to just shut down in shame that this bad thought has come again, why don't you turn it into a meeting with the Lord? I used to be so afraid of death. It started from when I was a kid. I would be negotiating. I was negotiating. I said, God, please let me just even be 20. Was it 20? It was my first negotiation. I think so. I just want to be 20. If I'm 20, then I can die. So my 20th birthday was now approaching. I remembered my negotiation. So I was now begging God, say, okay, God, let me be 25. My 25th year now came. So who was reminding me? You people. Who do you think was reminding me? Was it God or Satan? Satan that wanted me to die. My friends and family. Satan wanted to kill me. I remembered. So the fear came again. Like, hey, I'm almost 25. Oh, it's 25. I told God. And of course, Satan presented God like a taskmaster, evil. I didn't have a good understanding of the heart of God then. So when you don't know God very well, there's so much that the enemy will rob you of. Lies, many lies. In fact, there was a time God gave me a revelation that actually the opposite of fear is understanding. Instead of saying faith, that when you have understanding and you know who it is that is your God, you know the source of that faith, you'll fear less. So I think it was when I was getting closer to 25 that I just told God, I'm tired of all this negotiation. I want to leave. I don't want to die. I don't want to push it further. I don't want to say, okay, when I'm 30. I don't want to say when I'm 40. I just want to leave. And even that was a revelation, because at first, when I was younger, I didn't know I could do that. I did not know. But God just, I think that as I was praying, I was like, hey, why do I have to keep doing this now? And that's how God set me free. What lies have you been having that Satan has been telling you have been negotiating with Satan? You think you're negotiating with God because your God, your Heavenly Father, He loves you so much. He doesn't put us through things like that. But if we don't know, we will always be slaves to what we don't know. And that's why it's important, really, really important, to seek understanding, to seek knowledge. Philippians 4, 6 and 7 just talks about we should not be anxious about anything, but as we trust God, we just put our trust in the Lord. His peace will guard our heart. And then, as you go to verse 8, it talks about the things that we should think about. It's an invitation to cast our cares on the Lord.